Hey, my wonderful people, what a bombshell. You need to see how this northern man finished Reuben Abati. In fact, the hatred that this man has for the Igbos, I don't understand anymore. But this northern man actually addressed him in this particular video. Simon Kennedy finished him in this video, and I am glad that he did. My wonderful people, this is me bringing you the daily highlight as the shele we dey come here to the talk am. My people, what baffles me the most is that why are some of these eastern governors not advocating for the release of Nnamdi Kanu? It's really so painful. See Soludo, for instance. During Soludo's first tenure, you can see how he was carrying Nnamdi Kanu, saying everything about him. It was like his backbone during that time. But during his second tenure, when he is supposed to advocate for the release of Nnamdi Kanu, everybody is just keeping mute. Everybody is just keeping mute. If it's the Yorubas, they will do everything possible to release their person. But for the Igbos, they just left Nnamdi Kanu in Sokoto prison. It's well. They said the court found him guilty. It's just so sad, Sha. It's just so sad. Anyway, my wonderful people, they should focus on Nnamdi Kanu's release instead of causing katakata in the east. The one they're supposed to do, they no go do them. Now the one where they no say them, they go they do. Anyways, my people, make una hear waiting this northern man gets to talk, because he really spilled a lot.
Outspending Biafran secessionist groups as both sides seek President Donald Trump's ear over claims of a Christian genocide. The administration and its allies have moved swiftly to counter separatist narratives in the U.S. Capitol, signing a $750,000 a month deal for 6 months renewable contract with the Republican-linked DCI group to press Abuja's. Well, the scale of the contract dwarfs that of the shadowy and unknown Biafran Republic government in exile, which is paying up $66,000 a month to the smaller Madison and Washington lobbying firm to push for sanctions against Nigerian officials, greater U.S. engagement with a putative Biafran administration, and even support for military strikes and favorable oil deals with Washington in an unidentified future Biafra.
So if Biafra, the people promoting Biafra, if they are going to the U.S. and they are paying how much? $60,000 to sell their own story, that Igbos are being marginalized and persecuted in Nigeria, and that the idea of a Republic of Biafra will be a good proposition. I think it makes sense that the Nigerian government too is in that space. It's not about the money. It's about the fact that the Nigerian government wants to be heard, so that there's not just one voice in the room. Yes, sir. On December 12, 2025, the Nigerian government paid $4.5 million for 6 months, and the contract is renewable for another 6 months. So the lobbyists, what they will be doing basically is to get the Nigerian voice into the room, who will speak up. And finally, those Biafra separatists who are looking for lobbyists in America, they can spend their $60,000, but they should know, they should be reminded that is an act of sabotage against the Nigerian state. If you are still a patriot, if you are still a citizen, and you are sabotaging the Nigerian state, demarketing your country within the international sphere, there are consequences in that particular regard. Everybody should be well advised before we are told tomorrow that we are not supporting people who are following self-determination rules.
Lobbying.
Dr. Reuben Abati, in my mind, sincerely, I would have loved to call you a foolish man at this point in time, but let me not call you a foolish man. Let's take it gradually and deliberately. Right? I want to respond to your assertions in regards to this topic. Fine. Let's assume the Biafrans lobbied the United States in regards to the fact that there is need for them to have Biafra land. Right? So the next question that should come to our mind and every reasonable person's mind is the fact that why are they lobbying for Biafra? Just like you equally said it, marginalization, right? And you quite agree with me, everybody will quite agree with me that marginalization cannot be proven on paper. Because just like every other part have senators or whatever, they equally have that and some government interventions, right? But I want to prove it, I want to put it to you. Show me at any point in time that any party have actually zoned the presidency to Igbo land, considering and having in mind that these are the third or the second most populous tribes in Nigeria. If politics is to be dwelled on the virtue of the fact that the majority actually takes that, you will quite agree with me that there is no party in the history of Nigeria that have actually zoned presidency to the Igbo people, right? That is one. And secondly, let's go on virtue of the fact that, okay, let's assume they paid money for their voices to be heard. You quite agree with me that there's nothing they will do in Nigeria for their voices to be heard, and they decided to do that in the United States, right? But the fact is, are you actually succumbing and accepting the fact that the government of Nigeria, instead of actually showing reasons and presenting facts why Nigeria is united and everybody is accommodated, is actually lobbying, instead of showing facts that proves that what they are doing reflects the interest of everybody irrespective of region? Is that what you are saying? The government did not do that, but rather they decide to dwell on lobbying, using taxpayers' money to lobby, just like Biafrans are equally lobbying. And you have justified that, Abi. Now Ogungo finish you, sincerely speaking. And let's face it, what is the cry of the Biafrans? The cry of the Biafrans is, we have an incompetent government. We have been bedeviled with corruption for decades. Can you actually come out and prove that Nigeria have not been bedeviled with incompetent government and corruption in all facets? Can you actually prove that? You cannot. And when you talk about sabotage, what do you understand by the concept of sabotage? Is there anything that sabotages Nigeria more than incompetent government and corruption in all facets? Is it the Biafra that is sabotaging by stating the reality that you have a corrupt government, you have a lot of radical religious extremism in Nigeria, and the government is doing nothing about it? Which one is more of a sabotage? And you are now coming to talk about sabotage. What the fact, the last time I checked, you are also a beneficiary of the government. You have benefited on several occasions. I think at a point in time you were detained. And by virtue of the peculiarity of Nigeria, only God knows why you came out was because you were truthful or because it was done the Nigerian way. Right? So what are you saying? And let's face it, Nigeria is bedeviled with all these things. And let me tell you one thing about even cessation. Cessation is not just a Biafran ideology or a concept, Biafran concept at the moment. Even the minority in the north are also of the opinion of cessation from these radical Islamic elements that are predominantly in the north. And that is why they are doing this. And even the Yorubas, and to some certain extent, even the body language of Tinubu is doing the same thing. Because just like when Buhari was in power, he tried to explore crude in Bauchi, and only God knows whether it has been discovered or not. It's the same thing that Tinubu is doing by approving the exploration of crude in Ogun State in commercial quantity. And apart from that, what do you have to say in regards relocation of some of these national agencies back to Lagos? What are you saying? See, I hate people lying between God and man. You should be sincere. Allah, I used to have I hold you to a very high esteem. But at this point in time, you are nothing but a national disgrace. You should be ashamed of yourself. I'm telling you. At this point in time, what I have to tell you is the fact that Nnamdi Kanu cannot be incarcerated for life. At all. It will not happen. And why do I say it will not happen? It will not happen simply because this is not a call for people that are advocating for his release or whatever to go to sleep. What I'm actually saying is the fact that whatever it is that you have been doing, monetarily wise, educationally wise, you should put in more to that. And at the end of the day, that will be achieved. And secondly, the globe is paying attention. The world is paying attention to whatever is happening now. And they're interested in that. And if I must tell you sincerely, the world has never changed. Just like you used to hear of war here and there, the Ottoman Empire and the whatever, it has not changed. It's the same ideology. And as far as I'm concerned, it's three ideologies that rules the world. Is that you have the Arabian influence, the Western and the European influence, or you have the Asian influence. And in that regards, now funny enough, in Africa, we have a mix of all that virtually in all countries, or virtually almost all the countries in the Sahel. And that is why when you look at the dynamics as it's playing out now, you'll get to see that what is happening or what has happened in Niger, Mali, Chad, Burkina Faso, and whatever is the same thing that is happening in Nigeria. Ideological concept divisions, religious ideological concept divisions. Not as if the Arabian influence or the Arabian culture is actually bad, but over time, that has been adulterated and has resulted into religious fanaticism. Talking about Islamic religious fanaticism. And that is what has spoiled it. And that is what you're having now. And I want people to be good students of documentary and history, actually. You'll get to see that what has happened in Chad, Mali, Libya, or whatever is the same replication of what is happening in Nigeria. And if I must recommend something, just go online and search about Dogon people in Mali. When you chat about Dogon people in Mali, you get to see that there's a kind of militias that were formed to protect their territory or whatever. The same story that is happening in Nigeria is the same reason why these people are standing and trying to defend their own land. Do you get it? And having said that, let's look at it now. The fact is, we must give this to Bala Blue. Though the fact is, I'm not an advocate of Bala Blue, but the fact is, I think Bala Blue, we must give it to him. He's a liberal person. His policies or whatever will not speak that, but the fact is, he's ideologically inclined in the sense that live and let's live. That is the ideology of a Yoruba man. Do you get it? And I want to put it to you that I'm not campaigning for him actually, or he's the best or whatever. But what I'm just trying to say is, for the first time in history, at least, we're having somebody that is ready to take the radical trajectory. And that is why, if I must deviate, this next election is very interesting. Interesting in the sense that for the first time in history, the northern key players actually have no card to play because the division is actually growing bigger day by day. People are beginning to see now this is what the north stands for, and this is what the east stands for, and this is what the west stands for. Do you get it? Just like you quite agree with me that no president will want to become a president of a nation just to have his name being rubbished. Do you get it? But the Nigeria situation is more or less like pouring water in a basket. No matter your policies, no matter your interventions. He came with some wonderful policies actually thinking that will translate to development, but he is shocked to realize that that is not what is actually desired. Why? Because we are divided ideologically. And the fact is, I will actually love a situation where he's actually looking into that, not even love a situation. But the fact is, let's not deceive ourselves with the concept of one Nigeria where one is bad politicians, is bad governance that is responsible for all these things. The fact is, we are divided as an entity. We are not united. Ideologies is actually informing how we behave and how we prioritize things. And to some certain extent, take it or leave it, we must give it to this man. His policies are not good, though, but the fact is, with the pardon of Igbo and the rest of it, tell me why. So let's just leave it. What I'm trying to say is, sincerely, at this point in time, is to your old tent, a bit to your old tent, or Israel, a bit whatever as they put it. It's all man for himself. That's why I say, my guy, now your ego sharpen, and a lot of all these variables. So the fact is, preaching unity in diversity, in the midst of the reality as it affects the nation, is going to be nothing but hypocrisy. And let me affirm my stand today. My stand generally is, if Nigeria cannot do the right thing, then everybody should go his own way, just like Brimo said. And what is the right thing? The right thing is a Nigerian that respects and accommodates everybody irrespective of the differences. But at the end of the day, if that cannot be done, you are just going to succeed in making other people victims in the hands of other people that believe their ideology is superior, supreme, and should be respected. Most especially talking about the North. And that is why you have the introduction of political Sharia. And when you look at this now, when I hear people talking about, oh, we don't want to turn to Libya, we don't want to turn to Mali when the US was intervening and a lot of other countries was intervening, I begin to ask myself, do these people actually know the history of these people and why they were attacked and why a lot of all these things were done? If you're a good student of history and you're a good student of documentary, you understand that even the fall of Gaddafi can be traced back to even the 1960s, not 2000. The fall of all these other empires or whatever can be traced to a very long time as a result of what? Radicalization. Radical Islamic concepts. And that is what they are actually trying to establish with all these Fulani headers or whatever. Take it or leave it. Look at it. Look at the whole of the Sahels. The whole of the Sahels is bedeviled with all these things. Whole of the Sahels, no exclusion. The whole of the Sahels is bedeviled with all these things. But when it comes to Nigeria now, we have succeeded in giving them funny names like bandits or whatever. But the ideology remains the same. Nothing has changed. But the fact is, just like I keep saying, it's either live and let's live, or everybody goes on his own to build his territory and establish his kingdom according to his ideologies. So what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is, generally speaking, is either we live as one or we perish divided. And that is going to be my ideology in life. Do the right thing. But the fact is, in regards to doing the right thing is, how can you even do the right thing when people are divided ideologically? You can't do the right thing. Because the right thing now, in the midst of economic developments and giant rights or whatever, should be perceived as the right thing to everybody, right? But in the presence of ideologies that rules the world, what is right is bad. What is right is bad. What is right to this person is bad to this person. So I'm progressive in nature, and I want this to be in record. And I'm telling you, sorry, I forgot to say, this election is going to be the most interesting one. The most interesting one in the sense that for the first time in history, the kingmakers, as perceived, as believed, have no card to play. And in so doing now, take it or leave it. Let me put it to you. Let me say this to you. It's not a palatable thing, but we have to say it in the midst of it's saying the truth. There is no entity, no person that can defeat Bala Blue at the moment. There is none. And the fact is, if it's not defeated, it's going to turn into a kind of ideological concept fight. And when it turns into ideological concept fight now, that is when the fate of Nigeria will be established. We will now know.
Anyways, my wonderful people, you all have heard what Simon Kennedy has to say, and I guess he has said it all. Let me know what you think about his thought on this in the comment section. Well, I actually agree with him, because whether they like it or not, one day, Nnamdi Kanu will definitely be released. What do you think? Please leave your thought down there in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and I'll see you in my next one.